CARICOM leaders wrap up their 40th regular summit in Saint Lucia.
Regional private sector to assume greater role in the CARICOM single market and economy.
And the region's youth engaged the CARICOM Secretary General in frank and open discussions. Welcome to the CARICOM News highlights for the week ending Friday, 5th July 2019. I am Tusankin English Francis.
And I'm Michelle Nurse of the CARICOM Secretariat's Communications Unit. Thanks for joining us for this special feature on the 40th meeting of the Conference of CARICOM Heads of Government.
Heads of Government wrapped up their 40th regular meeting this week in Saint Lucia with major decisions on a number of matters that are expected to enhance the regional integration architecture and deliver benefits to the people of the community.
As to be expected, issues related to the CARICOM single market economy were aired, and we urged that as a matter of priority, member states undertake the necessary action at the national level to complete the measures outlined in the implementation plan. We acknowledge the importance of timely reporting on our implementation actions and the challenges. There is no doubt that as well we must enhance our efforts at public education and outreach. We had a good engagement with representatives of the private sector, labor, and civil society. The private sector has made progress towards establishing the CARICOM Private Sector Organization to enact formally with the heads of government and to be designated as the Associate Institute of the community. This is expected to be finalized by the end of this year. Its specific purpose to support fully the implementation of the CSME. We've agreed to designate the Caribbean Congress of Labor, the CCCL, as an associate institute of the community and welcome its commitment to engage with the CSPO on the mechanism for its participation in that grouping. A matter of concern to the heads of government is the continued blacklisting of some of the member states and associate members, which is clear and direct threat to the economic well-being of those countries and in particular the region. We agreed to refine the CARICOM strategy on blacklisting. With respect to Haiti, we agreed that a delegation of heads of government would visit the country to inform ourselves of the situation in that country. In our discussions on Venezuela, we reiterated the importance of resolving the crisis peacefully through dialogues between both parties. We also agreed that the mediation-related activities would be continued pursued by the Prime Ministers of St. Kitts and Nevis, Barbados, and Trinidad and Tobago, as designated by the conference in the 30th session of the meeting.
In setting the tone for the meeting, CARICOM Secretary General Ambassador Irwin LaRocque said that CARICOM's journey is recognized as the standard bearer by other developing countries seeking to build their own regional integration arrangements.
From across the globe, they have come to study our systems, our institutions, and our region and our integration movement as a model for improving theirs. They understand that what we have been doing has endured. Our progress, slow in some areas, has brought benefit in many others to the people of our community. We have earned the respect of the international community. We have shown that a small group of states acting in concert with purpose can achieve much.
He told the meeting that the region's economic resilience resides within the CARICOM single market and economy.
We have been engaged in the challenging task to create one market out of 12 developing economies, each of which is at different levels of development. We have persevered and we have made progress. However, we are lagging behind the deadlines agreed to in the implementation plan. It is in our interest to accelerate this process and to create a competitive regional economy.
In his address to the opening, the Secretary General pointed out the insidious nature of blacklisting CARICOM jurisdictions, particularly when similar action against large economies has had to be withdrawn.
The blacklisting of some of our member states and associate members as non-cooperative tax jurisdictions is a clear and direct threat to the economic well-being of those countries. Our member states have a sovereign right to determine their fiscal policy. our compliance with the regulatory measures and standards for tax transparency set by the OECD, the recognized global authority, is being disregarded by others. The arbitrary impositions of rules by countries and groups of countries other than the OECD with respect to tax governance and anti-money laundering without meaningful consultation with the affected states is unacceptable.
Chairman of the conference, Prime Minister Alan Chasney of Saint Lucia, also addressed the matter of blacklisting, saying that the region must rebel against the use of the strategy that permanently tarnishes the reputations of member states. He also called for serious introspection and actions to inspire Caribbean people, as well as creative, courageous, and unified positions on international issues.
As brilliant as the institutions we establish as CARICOM, there are times, given the changes in the world, we must now reform these institutions to respond to the new normal so that they can continue to serve the best interests of our community and our citizens. Let us not put off for tomorrow what we must do today.
The chairman highlighted the challenges the region faced, including climate change, crime, the fight for tax justice and fiscal sovereignty, and rapid loss of competitiveness.
We are losing our competitiveness to other regions due to the high cost and inefficiency of our national governance, and because we are not maximizing the opportunities in areas such as the creative industries, sports, tourism, our natural resources, and the blue economy. These difficult times require us to follow in the footsteps of our forefathers and to also take bold, innovative, and courageous steps. We must take control of our own destiny.
Prime Minister Chasney also commended the outgoing chairman, Prime Minister Timothy Harris of St. Kitts and Nevis, for the yeoman service he rendered to CARICOM during his tenure.
Dr. Timothy Harris commended the community's stance on Venezuela, urging CARICOM to remain an honest broker in the situation facing the Bolivarian Republic.
Venezuela is our neighbor, and our member states are being affected by the crisis. For us, this is not a geopolitical game of chess. It is a situation creating real hardships for millions of people right on our doorstep, fostering instability in our already fragile economies and exacerbating criminal activity. We must make clear that in all this, CARICOM plays a role of honest broker.
Prime Minister Harris also spoke about the ongoing political situation in Haiti, suggesting that CARICOM could also play an active role. He said multilateralism is the medium through which small states have a voice in the global arena, as he lauded St. Vincent and the Grenadines' election to the United Nations Security Council.
Multilateralism is the medium that ensures that we as small states have a voice in the global arena. It is what makes it possible for one of our member states, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, to be elected to the most powerful body in the United Nations system, the Security Council, and to promote and protect the interests of the small and vulnerable states. Let's give another round of applause to the government and people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres addressed the meeting focusing on issues related to climate change and other obstacles to sustainable development.
And the Caribbean experience makes abundantly clear that we must urgently reduce global emissions and work collectively to ensure that global temperature rise does not go beyond 1.5 degrees above pre-industrial levels. And that is why I'm asking all leaders from governments and the private sector to present plans at my Climate Action Summit, or at the latest by December 2020, to cut greenhouse emissions by 45% by 2030 and get to carbon neutrality by 2050. CARICOM and the Caribbean Community Climate Change Center have taken the lead from the front lines.
The UN Secretary General commended the leaders of CARICOM for presenting their bold vision to make the Caribbean the world's first climate resilient zone. Mr. Guterres also addressed the issue of resiliency in relation to the imperatives of citizen security and access to development finance.
As we shore up the resilience of Caribbean societies, we must address the issue of citizen insecurity. Murder rates in parts of the Caribbean are still very significant. Violence against women and girls is also a dimension of citizen insecurity, which increases in the wake of natural disasters and is an obstacle to resilient societies generally. I'm therefore also pleased that the Spotlight Initiative will be partnering with CARICOM and 6 countries in the region to make substantial focused investments, some 50 million euros, in prevention and redress for violence against women and girls. It is important that gender considerations underpin all our efforts to promote citizen security and sustainable development.
As the community continues to view engagement with the private sector as a key element in an efficient CARICOM single market and economy, CARICOM leaders met with representatives of the regional private sector and labor movement on Thursday, 4th of July. CARICOM Secretary General Ambassador Irwin LaRocque said that the discussions involved the establishment of a regional private sector organization, which he anticipates will be constituted in the coming months. Once this happens, he said heads of government will be willing to consider making an associate institution of the community to allow for greater collaboration and participation in the CSME.
The region's youth had the opportunity on Monday, the 1st of July, to engage the CARICOM Secretary General Ambassador Irwin LaRocque in frank and open discussion about their role, participation, vision, and expectations of the regional integration movement. St. Lucia Youth Ambassadors McAllister Hunt and S.B. Francis anchored a 2-hour discussion with the SG and young people at the Government Information Service studios. An active online audience of more than 15,000 people from CARICOM and beyond joined the conversation.
When I became Secretary General and I got my first briefing on the youth program and I realized that certain things were declared and action wasn't taking place, that's how I began to interact with the youth, at least to give that window of a voice. And I think it has established itself. And I think that there are some recommendations that have come on board that we have taken on board and moved forward with. So it may not be as much as you would wish to hear. I don't think I don't see you as a token at all. I take this very, very seriously.
Thank you.
I don't think you have the time or I have the time for us to be seeing that as a token. If I'm not as successful as I would like to be, it's because sometimes the resources are not there. But you have my pledge that I will do as much as I can.
The interaction between the Secretary General and the youth was held under the theme moving away from tokenism, youth a critical part of decision making.
Several schools, communities, and organizations in Guyana, as well as the CARICOM ambassadors in New York, have demonstrated the spirit of CARICOM is alive and well. In the lead up to the 4th of July observance of CARICOM Day, the Bishop's High School, St. Stanislaus College, and the town of Linden in Guyana created heightened appreciation for CARICOM as they profiled member states through impressive exhibitions and parades. CARICOM Youth Ambassadors of Barbados also did their part by hosting a discussion on the role the youth play in advancing regional integration as one of the events to mark the day. We understand Radio ZJB in Montserrat was abuzz with Caribbean music and information on CARICOM integration and life in the Caribbean. CARICOM ambassadors pulled out all the stops on Monday, the 1st of July, as they provided guests of a CARICOM Day celebration held at the United Nations headquarters, with a taste of the flavors of our community. The CARICOM Secretary General Ambassador Irwin LaRocque addressed the audience via a video message, expressing his deep appreciation and hope for CARICOM.
I am pleased to address you on the occasion of the observance of CARICOM Day 2019, organized by the permanent representatives of member states of the Caribbean community to the United Nations. It has been 46 years since the leaders of our then 4 independent CARICOM states, Barbados, Guyana, Jamaica, and Trinidad and Tobago signed the Treaty of Chaguaramas on the 4th of July 1973, establishing the Caribbean Community as a regional integration movement. Since then, successive CARICOM states have joined the community, bringing our membership to 15 states and 5 associate members, now governed by the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas.
There are more details to these and other stories on the CARICOM website or at our CARICOM news site at today.caricom.org.
Please also like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for watching. See you next time.